10. Black LGBTQ+ Brazilians shocking the world. Right now, Brazil has the largest black population outside Africa, and also some of the most dangerous, most censored, most explosive queer stories on Earth. These aren't diversity tokens or side characters. They're black LGBTQ+ Brazilians who shook football stadiums, hijacked soap operas, fought cops in the streets, ruled parliament, and then came out anyway. Some were jailed, some were killed, some became ministers and global icons. If this already feels uncomfortable, good. That means you need to hear it. Hit subscribe, smash like, and tell me in the comments. Is the world really ready for this level of black queer power? Gilberto Gil. Gilberto Gil may not look like a shock to the system at first glance. An elderly man with a guitar, a soft Bahian accent, and a gentle smile. But this black Brazilian legend has been shaking the world for more than 6 decades. Born Gilberto Passos, Gil Moreira in Salvador, Bahia in 1942, he became one of the leaders of the Tropicalia movement in the 1960s, blending samba rock, psychedelia, and Afro-Brazilian rhythms into a sound that challenged Brazil's military dictatorship. For his art and his ideas, he was arrested then, forced into exile in London, before finally returning to Brazil in the 1970s. That story alone would make him historic. But for Gil, it was just the beginning. As his music spread across the globe, Gil collected some of the highest honors in the industry, including multiple major international awards for his albums. At home, he turned from protest singer into policymaker. In the 2000s, he took on the role of Minister of Culture of Brazil, becoming one of the very few black people ever to sit in the country's cabinet. From that position, he pushed for culture to be seen not as a luxury, but as a right, supporting poor communities, favela projects, and digital culture long before it was trendy. He blurred the line between artist and statesman, playing concerts on global stages while speaking about democracy, identity, and freedom. Then, just when Brazil thought it knew exactly who Gilberto Gil was, he shocked the conversation again. In a widely discussed interview in 2023, already in his 80s, Gil openly acknowledged that he has had relationships with men as well as women, and went further, sharing his belief that in some sense we are all bisexual. For a black elder, a cultural legend, and a former government minister to say this publicly in a country still marked by homophobia and conservative values was explosive. It wasn't a cheap confession meant to stir scandal. It was a calm, philosophical statement about desire, complexity, and the human condition. If you had his fame, his age, and his legacy, would you dare to be that honest about your past and your desires? Gilberto Gil belongs at the center of any list titled 10 Black LGBTQ+ Brazilians Shocking the World Right Now, because his impact is both historic and urgently current. He is a black man from Brazil's Northeast, who survived dictatorship, reinvented popular music, helped govern a nation, and then late in life used his platform to challenge rigid ideas about sexuality. He doesn't fit neatly into labels. He is at once musician and politician rebel, and elder straight, and queer inclusive. By embracing the fluidity of his own story, he quietly explodes the binary expectations that society tries to impose. That is why Gilberto Gil still shocks the world today, not with noise or scandal, but with the serene power of someone who has nothing left to hide and everything left to teach. Richarlison. Richarlison Barbosa Felizbino is one of the most surprising names in any list of black LGBTQ+ Brazilians shocking the world right now. Born in 1982 in Natal, Rio Grande do Norte, he grew up in a football family and chose one of the toughest stages you can imagine, professional men's soccer in Brazil. As a defensive midfielder and left back, he played for giants like São Paulo and Atlético Mineiro, winning the FIFA Club World Cup in 2005, 3 consecutive Brazilian league titles from 2006 to 2008, and the Copa Libertadores in 2013. On paper, he is the classic story of a warrior on the pitch, aggressive, resilient, and decorated with trophies. Off the pitch, though, a different story was always lurking in the shadows. For years, Richarlison lived with constant rumors and jokes about his sexuality. Rival fans mocked him, commentators made insinuations, and the press whispered, but he never publicly confirmed anything. In a hyper-macho environment where homophobia is often normalized, even a slightly different way of dressing or speaking could turn into a weapon against a player. He later admitted that these years were emotionally exhausting, not just because of what was said, but because he knew that if he spoke openly, it might cost him contracts, respect in the locker room, or even his safety. Imagine carrying that weight while you're trying to perform at the absolute highest level in one of the most pressured sports on earth. Everything changed in June 2022 when he agreed to be interviewed on the podcast Nos Armarios dos Vestiarios, In the Closets of the Locker Rooms, a serious investigation into homophobia and sexism in Brazilian football. In that conversation, Richarlison finally said the words the world had been waiting for: he is bisexual. He explained clearly and calmly that he has had relationships with both men and women, and that he was tired of seeing football pretend that LGBTQ+ people don't exist. With that one declaration, he became the first openly LGBTQ+ male player to have played for the Brazilian men's national team and in the country's top division. That isn't gossip or exaggeration. It is a historic milestone in global sports. After hanging up his boots, Richarlison reinvented himself as a TV commentator and public voice. He speaks about tactics and games, but he also refuses to stay silent about the violence and prejudice faced by LGBTQ+ people in Brazil, one of the most dangerous countries in the world for queer lives. He makes it clear that being bi doesn't erase his achievements as a champion or his identity as a Black Northeastern man. It simply reveals the full truth of who he is. By stepping out of the closet of the locker room, Richarlison didn't just free himself. He cracked open a door for future generations of queer athletes who dream of playing at the highest level without hiding. That quiet but powerful shockwave is exactly why his name belongs on any list of Black LGBTQ+ Brazilians shaking the world right now. David Miranda. David Michael dos Santos. Miranda's story starts far from the marble halls of power. Born in 1985 and raised in Jacarezinho, one of Rio de Janeiro's largest favelas, he lost his mother at 5, left school as a teenager, and spent years doing odd jobs to survive. By all the usual rules of Brazilian society, a poor Black gay boy from the favela was never meant to end up in Congress. But everything began to change in 2005 when he accidentally knocked over the drink of an American journalist on Ipanema Beach. That journalist was Glenn Greenwald. The two fell in love, built a life together, and David returned to school, eventually graduating and stepping into activism with a fierce sense of purpose. If the system was built to erase people like him, he would force it to see them. Miranda first burst onto the international radar through the Edward Snowden saga. In 2013, he was detained for 9 hours at London's Heathrow Airport while carrying encrypted files between journalist Laura Poitras and Greenwald as part of the reporting that exposed global mass surveillance. His laptop phone and drives were seized under anti-terror laws. For a Black, openly gay Brazilian from the favela to suddenly be at the center of a global confrontation over state power and press freedom was shocking in itself. But he didn't retreat. He campaigned for Brazil to grant Snowden asylum and doubled down on human rights work. In 2016, David Miranda took that fight directly into politics, being elected to the Rio de Janeiro City Council and becoming one of the city's first openly gay councilors. He proudly used the labels others tried to weaponize against him: Negro, gay, e favelado, Black gay, and from the favela. Inside City Hall, he pushed for LGBTQ+ rights and protections for the poor, while outside he and his family traveled in a bulletproof car after his friend and fellow councilor Marielle Franco was assassinated in 2018. 3 years later, he moved to the national stage. In 2019, he took a seat as federal deputy for Rio de Janeiro. And that same year, Time magazine named him one of its next-generation leaders, highlighting his role as a Black gay politician standing up to Brazil's rising far right. For many Brazilians, seeing someone with his background speaking from the congressional podium felt like a glitch in the matrix, a living contradiction of everything the system said was possible. Behind the headlines, Miranda's life was also about building a family and claiming joy. He and Glenn Greenwald married under Brazilian law and adopted 3 children even as they faced death threats, smear campaigns, and constant security concerns. In 2022, Miranda was hospitalized with a severe gastrointestinal infection and spent 9 months in intensive care before dying in May 2023, just 1 day before his 38th birthday. His death was mourned across Brazil and abroad not only because he was young, but because he represented something rare. A black, openly gay man from the favela who made it into the center of power and refused to tone himself down once he got there. In any countdown of 10 black LGBTQ+ Brazilians shocking the world. Right now, David Miranda's story stands out as both a warning and an inspiration proof that visibility can be dangerous, but also that it can shake a country awake. Madame Satan, João Francisco dos Santos, better known by his electrifying name, Madame Satan, is the wildest, most dangerous kind of legend, the kind poor black queer people created for themselves in a world that wanted them dead or invisible. Born at the start of the 20th century to a family with roots in slavery, he moved from Brazil's impoverished northeast to Rio de Janeiro and grew up on the streets without the safety nets that protect respectable citizens. In the bohemian neighborhood of Lapa, surrounded by bars, brothels, and cabarets, he became a cook, a performer, a bodyguard, and a fighter. At night, dressed in extravagant costumes, feathers, and makeup, he dazzled on stage as a drag performer inspired by cinema divas, while by day he was known as a tough capoeirista who could knock a man down as easily as he could strike a pose. Being black, poor, and openly gay in early 20th century Brazil meant that just existing was treated as provocation. Police regularly raided the spaces where marginalized people gathered, and Madame Satan's life became a constant clash with the authorities. He was arrested multiple times, accused of everything from disorderly conduct to more serious crimes, and his police record turned into part of his myth. He is remembered as someone who would rather fight than bow, who refused to abandon sex workers, street kids, and others at the bottom of the social ladder. He turned his own body into a battlefield where racism, homophobia, and class hatred collided with something the powerful never expected from someone like him: unyielding defiance. On stage, Madame Satan was pure spectacle. Wrapped in glamorous gowns, sequins, and elaborate headpieces, he inverted all the rules about who gets to be beautiful and adored. In a deeply racist conservative society, a black gay man taking the spotlight, commanding applause, and playing with gender in such an unapologetic way was a shock to the system long before pride parades or queer rights movements became visible. His performances in Lapa's nightlife turned the neighborhood into a kind of underground theater of resistance, where marginalized bodies claimed glamour, desire, and visibility on their own terms. Decades after his death in the 1970s, Madame Satan's spirit refuses to fade. His life inspired films like The Devil Queen in the 1970s and the acclaimed 2002 movie Madame Satan, which brought his story to international audiences and cemented him as an icon of black queer resistance. In any list of 10 black LGBTQ+ Brazilians shocking the world. Right now, he is the ghost in the room. The ancestor who fought the police with capoeira strutted through Lapa in drag and carved out a place in history with nothing but his fists, his charisma, and his refusal to behave. Modern black LGBTQ+ Brazilians stand on stages in parliaments, in stadiums, and courts. But Madame Satan was there first, proving that even the most marginalized life can become a legend powerful enough to echo across a century. Thiago Pantaleão. Thiago Pantaleão is one of the brightest faces of a new black LGBTQ+ generation shaking Brazilian pop. Born Thiago Caetano Romero Pantaleão in 1997 in Vassouras, Rio de Janeiro, and raised in the suburban neighborhood of Jardim Nova Era in Paracambi. He grew up singing in his family's evangelical church with his mother as a vocalist and his father as a musician. That conservative religious environment shaped his voice but also made his journey of self-acceptance painfully complex. As a teenager, he identified as LGBTQ+ lost friends after coming out and eventually chose to leave the church in order to live his truth as a young queer black man from the outskirts of Rio. His big break came not from TV talent shows but from the internet. In 2020, Tiago released singles including Tipo Isa, a playful tribute that caught the attention of superstar Isa and acclaimed singer Lineker, who shared and praised his work online. That momentum grew in 2021 with Te Deixo Crazy, a collaboration with Danny Bond that passed the 3 million play mark across platforms in just a few months. In 2022, he went viral again after posting photos in a crocheted bikini made by his mother, inspired by a look from Big Brother Brazil. The buzz took him to the prestigious Baile de Vogue and helped secure a contract with major label Som Livre, marking his official arrival in Brazil's pop landscape. Later that year, Pantaleão released his debut album, Fim do Mundo 2022, a 9-track project mixing pop R&B rock and references to superheroes anime and K-pop. The record led to high-profile TV performances on shows like Música Boa ao Vivo and nominations at Brazilian Music Awards, including Breakthrough Artist categories. In the years that followed, he expanded his universe with Nova Era Part I 2023 and the full album Nova Era 2024, a conceptual project named after the neighborhood where he grew up. Through these works, Tiago uses sleek R&B and Brazilian funk to tackle themes like religious guilt, queer desire, and suburban identity, turning his life story into a sonic new era for Black LGBTQ+ representation in mainstream Brazilian music. Equally important is how openly Tiago lives his identity. In interviews, he has clearly stated that he considers himself bisexual, and his lyrics, visuals, and performances reflect that fluidity. His music videos frequently play with gender expression and feature both male and female love interests, aligning his image with global queer icons while staying deeply rooted in Brazilian culture. In a country where homophobia and racism still claim lives every year, seeing a young black bi man singing about love, pleasure, and self-acceptance on big stages like Rock in Rio sends a powerful message. Tiago Pantaleão is not just another pop singer. He is living proof that a Black LGBTQ+ artist from the periphery can turn vulnerability into visibility and visibility into cultural shockwaves. Fred Nicasio. Fred William Nicasio Souza de Oliveira, known simply as Fred Nicasio, is the kind of Black LGBTQ+ Brazilian who shakes the system just by walking into a room. Born in 1987 in Campos dos Goitacazes, Rio de Janeiro, he grew up in a deeply conservative evangelical and macho environment with a military father and a homemaker mother. Discovering he was gay as a teenager meant not just inner conflict, but open rejection. When his parents found out about his sexuality, they stopped paying for his medical studies, and he had to rely on friends and his own hustle to finish his degree. On top of that, he went through the trauma of so-called gay cure processes pushed by religious pressure, something he has since condemned publicly, turning his personal wounds into political testimony. Despite all that, Fred became exactly what the system never expected: a black gay doctor in a country where racism and homophobia still shape who gets to wear a white coat. He first went viral in 2018 when a video of him attending an elderly black woman in Brazilian Sign Language exploded online. It was the first time she had ever been treated by a black doctor, and her emotional reaction said as much about Brazil as it did about him. Other videos showed him communicating with deaf patients in emergencies, hugging them, explaining procedures slowly, and insisting that medicine must care for the soul as much as for the body. For millions of Brazilians, seeing a black gay man with dreadlocks and a white coat treating marginalized patients with dignity was already a quiet revolution. That visibility took him from hospitals to screens. Fred is trained in physical therapy and intensive and dermatological medicine, but he also became one of the Fab Five presenters of Queer Eye Brazil on Netflix, responsible for well-being, good habits, and self-care. In 2023, he entered Big Brother Brazil 23 as part of the Camarote celebrity cast, openly gay and married to dentist Fabio Gelonese, with whom he lives in Bauru, São Paulo. Inside the house, he spoke frankly about racism, religious intolerance, and the violence of growing up queer in the church, and shared how he had once tried to change his orientation to be accepted by God and family. His mere presence, black gay dreadlocks doctor and reality star, broke stereotypes about what a Brazilian physician should look and act like. Outside the show, that honesty has been formally recognized. In 2023, the City Council of Rio de Janeiro awarded him the Medalha Pedro Ernesto and the title of Honorary Citizen of Rio for confronting racism and religious intolerance on national television and for his broader contributions as a black LGBTQ+ figure in public life. Fred Nicasio stands out in any list of 10 black LGBTQ+ Brazilians shocking the world right now, because his life connects multiple battlefields at once: the hospital, the church, the favela, the TV studio. He is proof that a black gay body in a white coat on Netflix and in Brazil's most watched reality show is not just representation. It is a political act, a living challenge to every lie that said someone like him did not belong. Amaury Lourenço. Amaury Lourenço is one of the most fascinating names on any list of black LGBTQ+ Brazilians shaking the country right now. An actor, dancer, choreographer, and screenwriter, he spent years working in theater and TV before suddenly exploding into national fame as Ramiro in the Globo primetime soap Terra e Paixão. On paper, Ramiro is everything you expect from a classic Brazilian telenovela henchman, a rough, violent farmhand and right-hand man to the powerful landowner Antonio La Selva, willing to kidnap, intimidate, and even kill on his boss's orders. But as the story unfolds, Ramiro falls in love with Kelvin, a flamboyant, witty waiter played by Diego Martins, and that relationship turns one of the novela's villains into one half of its most beloved queer couple. The pairing, nicknamed Kelmiro by fans, quickly became a cultural phenomenon. Viewers who initially saw Ramiro as just another brutal capanga watched him soften, question his loyalty to his murderous boss, and slowly allow himself to love another man. Their scenes together, awkward touches, stolen kisses, and finally full-on romantic moments and a happy ending sparked intense discussion across Brazil. For a 9 o'clock Globo novela, still one of the country's biggest mass media stages, having a black rugged macho character transformed through a same-sex romance was a major shift. It challenged the stereotype that queer love only belongs to campside characters or tragic storylines and showed it as something capable of redemption, courage, and tenderness. Off-screen, Amaury Lourenço was being watched just as closely as Ramiro. For a long time, he had never publicly defined his orientation, even while embracing LGBTQ+ stories in his work and activism. That changed in 2023 when, in an interview with newspaper Extra, he finally said out loud, "What many suspected, you may considero homem LGBTQIA+. I consider myself an LGBTQIA+ man." He added that he could one day marry a man or a woman cis or trans, and that he has no problem with the public's curiosity as long as it doesn't overshadow his work as an actor. He also spoke about losing friends to homophobic violence and sheltering queer students and friends who had been attacked or expelled from home, revealing how deeply the LGBTQ+ struggle is woven into his personal life. What makes Amaury Lourenço so important to a title like 10 Black LGBTQ+ Brazilians Shocking the World Right Now is this combination of visibility and complexity. He is a black artist who uses his body and his craft to tell stories of love and violence, guilt and liberation on the biggest TV platform in the country. His Ramiro is a gay payo torn between crime and redemption, and his own public stance refusing to squeeze himself into a single label while clearly affirming that he is part of the LGBTQIA+ community offers a more fluid, honest image of queerness than Brazilian television is used to. In a media landscape that still often flattens queer people into caricatures, Amaury Lourenço stands out as a layered, serious actor whose success proves that Black LGBTQ+ narratives are not niche. They are central, powerful, and ready for prime time. Rico Dalassam. Rico Dalassam is one of the boldest Black LGBTQ+ voices in Brazilian music, a rapper who turned his very existence into a form of protest. Born Jefferson Ricardo da Silva on July 22, 1989, in Taboão da Serra on the outskirts of São Paulo, he grew up in a poor community and first worked as a hairdresser before diving fully into music. His stage name, Rico Dalassam, is an acronym in Portuguese for Disponho Armas Libertarias a Sonhos Antes Mutilados. I provide libertarian weapons to dreams once mutilated. That phrase is basically his artistic manifesto. From the beginning, he positioned himself as openly gay, making him widely recognized as one of the first rappers in Brazil to come out publicly in a scene that has long been dominated by straight, hyper-masculine images. His early work quickly stood out for its unapologetically queer perspective. The 2015 EP Modo Diverso introduced tracks like Riquíssima Aceite C and No Posso Esperar, songs that talk openly about desire, self-worth, and Black queer identity over catchy hip-hop beats. In 2016, he released his debut album, Orgunga, a title built from the words Orgulho Negro, a gay, proud Black and gay. The record blends rap, Brazilian rhythms, and pop hooks, telling stories of growing up Black and gay on the periphery, facing racism, homophobia, and class prejudice, while still claiming space for joy and swagger. It wasn't just entertainment. It was a declaration that someone like him had the right to occupy the center of the stage. Rico's impact exploded when he teamed up with drag pop superstar Pablo Vittar on the carnival anthem Todo Dia. The track became a massive hit, with its music video racking up millions of views on YouTube and turning into one of the great queer soundtracks of Brazilian carnival in the late 2010s. Alongside that, songs like Braille showed a more emotional, introspective side, mixing vulnerability, social commentary, and confidence. Over the years, he has continued to expand his universe with projects like Fim das Tentativas, Escuro Brilhante, Último Dia no Orfanato, Tia Guga, 30, Semanas, and the conceptual Dolores Dalla Guardião do Alívio, proving he is not just a gay rapper stereotype, but a restless, experimental artist. What makes Rico Dalassam essential to MOTUDE new 10 Black LGBTQ+ Brazilians shocking the world right now is the way he fuses race, class, and sexuality into a single disruptive presence. He is a Black gay man from the periphery who raps about queer desire without codes or apologies, appears in fashion editorials while still speaking clearly about favela reality, and treats the dance floor as a space of resistance as much as pleasure. Many younger LGBTQ+ artists in Brazil point to him as a reference, a proof that hip-hop can also belong to Black queer bodies and stories. By putting Black gay pride directly into the name of his first album and the core of his sound, Rico Dalassam turned his career into a live demonstration that visibility can be loud, rhythmic, and completely unafraid. Luiz Felipe Lucas. Luiz Felipe Lucas is a multi-artist who embodies the collision of cinema music and Black Brazilian identity. Born in Minas Gerais and based between Brazil and Europe, he first appeared to many as an actor taking on roles in TV series, short films, and experimental projects. On Brazilian television, he has played characters in dramas such as Carcereiros, where he appears as Jamaica, moving through the gritty world of a prison series that already deals with violence, morality, and marginalization. On stage, he has worked with numerous theater companies and performed in museums and cultural institutions across Brazil and Europe, always gravitating toward narratives that center bodies and identities usually pushed to the background. What really pushes Luiz Felipe Lucas into the spotlight of 10 black LGBTQ+ Brazilians shocking the world right now is his work as a music director and conceptual creator. Together with producers Mbe and Lay Black Beats, he created Mimosa, an album manifesto built on Afro-Brazilian rhythms that refuses to treat black culture as background decoration. Conceived during an artistic residency in Spain and released by the QTV label, the project travels from terreiro drums to samba, hip-hop, drum and bass, and the many strains of Brazilian funk. It is not just a music album. It is a sonic essay about the movement, history, and resilience of black Brazilian bodies in the diaspora, insisting that what was once enslaved and silenced now leads the rhythm. Visually, Luiz's universe is just as striking. In performances and video work related to Mimosa and other projects, he often appears masked, semi-nude, or dressed in pieces that blur the lines between everyday clothing, ritual costume, and fetish wear. One recurring image shows him in nothing but a fabric mask that hides his face and a thong that exposes the vulnerability and power of the body. These choices are not random shock tactics. They play with desire, anonymity, and resistance, turning the black male body into both target and weapon, object and subject. Without needing to spell out labels, his art clearly dialogues with queer aesthetics and LGBTQ+ experiences in Brazil. In the context of black LGBTQ+ visibility, Luiz Felipe Lucas stands out not because he shouts his identity in a slogan, but because he builds entire worlds where race, sexuality, and history are impossible to separate. His work destabilizes the viewer. Is this dance, ritual, protest, or seduction? It is all of them at once. While other names on the list might be more famous in mainstream TV politics, or Pop, Luiz operates like a quiet detonator in the art world, showing that black Brazilian LGBTQ+ aligned expression can be avant-garde, intellectual, and deeply physical at the same time. In doing so, he expands the map of what it means to be a black queer artist from Brazil in the 21st century. João Lucas Reis da Silva. João Lucas Reis da Silva is quietly making sports history as one of the most important black LGBTQ+ Brazilians of his generation. Born on 26 March 2000 in Recife, Pernambuco, he picked up a tennis racket at just 3 years old, inspired by his older brother. By 10, he was playing national tournaments, and at 13, he moved alone to São Paulo to train, spending 7 intense years away from home in pursuit of a professional career. On court, he plays right-handed with a two-handed backhand built for clay, the surface where he feels most at home. Step by step, he climbed the brutal ladder of professional tennis. As a junior, João Lucas reached the top 30 in the ITF junior rankings and played all 4 junior Grand Slams, with his best run being the 3rd round at Roland Garros 2018. As a pro, he has built his career mainly on the ITF and ATP Challenger circuits, winning multiple ITF titles and crucially capturing a Challenger doubles title in Santiago in 2023 and a Challenger singles title in Santa Fe, Argentina in 2025. By November 2025, he had reached a career-high ATP singles ranking of number 187, making him one of Brazil's top male singles players. What lifts João Lucas into a list like 10 black LGBTQ+ Brazilians shocking the world right now isn't just his results, but his courage off the court. After years of staying silent, he came out to his family and close circle, and in December 2024, he publicly revealed that he is gay, becoming the first active male professional tennis player in the world to come out as gay at that level. He also made his relationship with Brazilian actor and model Gui Sampaio Ricardo public. In interviews, he has said that accepting and sharing his identity improved everything around him: his relationship with his coaches, his parents, and his own mental game on court. For a black Brazilian from Recife to stand in the hyper-competitive, often conservative tennis world and say, "This is who I am," is a shockwave far beyond rankings and trophies. João Lucas Reis da Silva is not just chasing points. He is changing what an ATP player is allowed to look like, love like, and live like. In a sport where LGBTQ plus men have long been present but rarely visible, his decision to be out Black Brazilian and proud makes him one of the most quietly revolutionary figures in global tennis today. From the favelas to Congress, from prison stages to tennis courts, these 10 Black LGBTQ plus Brazilians are not just breaking ceilings, they're rewriting the entire building plan. Their lives force us to confront uncomfortable questions about race desire, faith power, and who is allowed to be a legend. On Legends of Black Excellence, we don't just celebrate their victories. We challenge the myths that said they could never exist in the first place. So now it's your turn. Are these pioneers a sign of progress or proof that Brazil still fears Black queer power?